What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, WBC, better known as the World Boxing Council, President Mauricio Suleiman have come out and they have disputed the statements made by former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman, who is now 29 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 22 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'7" with a 69-inch arm reach. Keith Thurman will be making his ring return after a 2.5-year layoff since losing in July of 2019 to legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. Okay, so Keith Thurman, he hadn't fought since July of 2019. He will be facing off against former WBA junior welterweight Mexican star boxer MARRIO Barrios, who's making his debut at welterweight. But MARRIO Barrios is a very big junior welterweight. Make no mistake about it. He's not your average junior welterweight, okay? MARRIO Barrios is 5'10" with a 72-inch arm reach. So MARRIO Barrios is definitely a guy that was squeezing down the junior welterweight. He was definitely a full welterweight campaigning that junior welterweight. 26 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 17 wins by way of knockout. Like I said, he's 26 years of age, 5'10" with a 71-inch arm reach. They'll be competing February 5th in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Mandalay Bay Arena. So with that said, Keith Thurman is doing the press conferences. He's, building up the fight, promoting the fight. And the fight is just 2 weeks away. And Keith Thurman, he made some very, very interesting statements yesterday when he was featured on PBC, Premier Boxing Champion, social media press conference, so to speak, okay? And Keith Thurman, he stated that when asked about possibly fighting undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization, welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terence Crawford, who is 38 wins, no losses, no draws, 29 wins by way of knockout, 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Keith Thurman, he responded and said that that fight is not happening. And Keith Thurman, he stated that he had another huge offer on the table, and he was breaking some news. Okay, he stated that the WBC has decided to make the fight between him and MARRIO Barrios title eliminator. And essentially, he'll be the mandatory for Errol Spence, undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer, who will be going into a unification, a massive unification bout against WBA, World Boxing Association welterweight super champion, who is YORDENIS Ugas. Okay, he's a Cuban star boxer. YORDENIS Ugas, 27 wins, 4 losses, no draws. 12 wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'9" with a 69-inch arm reach. That's scheduled to take place, according to my sources, April 16th in Dallas, Texas, at the AT&T Stadium, Dallas Cowboys Stadium. With that said, that's a massive showdown. 3 belts will be on the line. And Keith Thurman, he stated that he'll be the mandatory challenger for the winner of that fight. And so he would much rather go that route because it would be a dream come true to have one fight for all the belts, and he always wanted to become undisputed. Now, Keith Thurman, what's interesting here is that in 4.5 years since he unified the belts and won the WBC title back in 2017 in March against two-division world champion, Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia, he won against Danny Garcia unification bout, and he held the WBA and he held the WBC title. But with that said, Keith Thurman, he went on a 2-year hiatus, and he was removed as the WBC champion due to inactivity, which eventually saw Danny Garcia fight against Sean Porter in for the vacant WBC title. And then Sean Porter went on, after beating Danny Garcia, he defended it against YORDENIS Ugas, which he won, and many people questioned that victory. I personally thought he won. Then September of 2019, he faced off against Errol Spence in a unification bout, okay? Then Errol Spence won the belts, and then he had, obviously, 12 days later, suffered the horrific car accident. He went on a 14-month hiatus, obviously, rehabbing, came back, fought Danny Garcia, and now he'll be fighting YORDENIS Ugas in a unification. So Keith Thurman, in that span of time, he came back in January of 2019. He fought Josito Lopez and looked like he was on the verge of getting stopped by Josito Lopez. Then he fought Manny Pacquiao in July, and he lost to Manny Pacquiao, okay? So with that said, Keith Thurman has been inactive in a 4.5-year span, okay? Because he didn't fight since 2019, and we're 2022. And prior to that, from 2017 to 2019, he didn't fight at that time, okay? So with that said, he stated that he was going to be the mandatory challenger. Now, what was interesting is that Errol Spence, he stated that he had no interest in fighting Keith Thurman because when he was looking to fight Keith Thurman in unification bouts or title opportunities, Keith Thurman was playing games, and he stated that he just don't like Keith Thurman overall as a person or as a boxer. So he don't want to fight Keith Thurman. He stated that if the road to becoming undisputed goes through Keith Thurman, then he'll say goodbye to the belts, goodbye to the welterweight division. He's dropped the belts and move up to junior middleweight. That's how much Errol Spence despises of Keith Thurman, essentially, okay? So with that said, the WBC, they let it be known that this is not true. Now, that Keith Thurman is, a title, could possibly be a title eliminator, but he won't be the mandatory. So he needs to go ahead and fight Terence Crawford. Now, Keith Thurman, he was featured on the Porterweight podcast, Sean Porter's podcast, and he was asked about a Terence Crawford fight, a few different places, platforms, and he stated that he would love to fight Terence Crawford after he fight Mario Barrios, just give him 8 months, which would give him around the same time frame he did in 2019. He fought in January 2019, then he fought in July. So that would be February of 2022, then July of 2022. Now, Terence Crawford was asked about this, and he stated that he would love to fight Keith Thurman. That's been one of his main objectives when he came to welterweight, was to fight Keith Thurman, because he always viewed Keith Thurman as the man to beat in the welterweight division. So with that said, he stated he would love to fight and beat Keith Thurman, okay? But he just didn't understand why Keith Thurman was saying he needed 8 months. He don't believe in himself. He don't believe in his talents. He don't believe in his skill set. Because you look at Errol Spence, he was out the ring for 14 months, went right into fighting Danny Garcia. Then he's out the ring again for another, last time he fought was December of 2020. So now we're going into 2022. So Errol Spence has been out the ring. Now it's looking like April. So another 14, 15 months since Errol Spence fought, and he's going into a title fight with Yordenis Ugas. Okay, so Yordenis Ugas shocked the world. He beat Manny Pacquiao. He filled in for Errol Spence August 21st. Errol Spence suffered a broken detached retina, eye injury now. So he's fought one time since suffering a car accident, and he had an eye injury on top of that. And he's looking to fight the absolute best that there is to offer. So with that said, Terence Crawford, he stated Keith Thurman doesn't believe in his talents, his skill set, and he's not confident that he could beat Terence Crawford. So Terence Crawford said he's more than willing to make the fight happen. Now, Terence Crawford, he's going through some legal battles with the legendary promoter, Top Rank CEO and promoter Bob Arum, and Top Rank themselves, as he's citing that they breached the contract, they didn't fulfill their obligations, and he needs to be compensated, and he wants $10 million. So there's a seesaw battle going on between the two, because he stated that he was promised the Errol Spence fight. But Terence Crawford, he wants to fight the biggest names. Terence Crawford, he wants to fight Keith Thurman. So now it just makes sense, since the WBC is saying it's not true, and Keith Thurman needs to go ahead and fight Terence Crawford, okay? Or he needs to go ahead and fight rising welterweight superstar title contender Jaron Boots Ennis. Jaron Boots Ennis is number 2 in the WBC rankings. Jaron Ennis is 28 wins, no losses, no draws, 26 big wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'10", with a 74-inch arm reach, and he's void of an opponent right now, looking for a fight, and he would love to fight Keith Thurman. So it makes sense for Keith Thurman. You want to be in line to be the mandatory for the WBC, well, fight Jaron Ennis, because we know the number 1 contender in the WBC rankings have no interest in fighting. It don't seem any top welterweights, and that's undefeated rising Mexican superstar title contender Vergil Ortiz Jr. Vergil Ortiz Jr., is an undefeated guy. He's 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. He's knocked out all his opponents that he's faced. Vergil Ortiz Jr. just doesn't seem, nor his team, to be willing to put him in the ring with the best opposition. He's with Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions, 18 wins, no losses, no draws, 18 wins by way of knockout. He's scheduled to face off against Michael McKinnon who is 21 wins, no losses, no draws, 2 wins by way of knockout. 2. Okay, 27 years of age, 5'9" with a 70-inch armage. Okay, this is scheduled to take place March 19th of this year. So, with that said, Michael McKinnon is not ranked in the top 15 or not near one of the sanction bodies. He's not ranked in the top 10 of the Ring magazine. And Virgil Ortiz is top 3 in every major sanction belt. And yet, this is who he's choosing to fight. Okay, so with that said, you know, Virgil Ortiz just doesn't seem to be eager. And once upon a time, he called out Terence Crawford after the Maurice Hooker fight that took place in March of 2021. That didn't happen. He didn't, you know, change his tune. Initially, he said he was eager to fight Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford was going to see just what he brings to the table. And he chose not to fight Terence Crawford. And then he fought a guy Terence Crawford had already beaten, Ugas, and he got a TKO victory, but not before he looked like he was on the verge of getting stopped himself. So now he's choosing to fight a guy who's a light touch opponent, and Michael McKinnon, who's only 2 knockouts in 21 fights. Michael McKinnon is a pure boxer. He's not a risk as far as his power, and he's not ranked high. So it's just stay busy, active fight for Virgil Ortiz Jr. So with that said, for Keith Thurman, if he beats MARRIO Barrios and truly wants to make a name for himself and get back into contention and be a part of the welterweight, you know, mandatory position, not using just his name, fight Jerron Boots Ennis or fight Terence Crawford in July. So the WBC says they're absolutely not going to make Keith Thurman a mandatory, and that Keith Thurman could go ahead and fight Terence Crawford because they don't know when Keith Thurman will get his opportunity should he beat MARRIO Barrios at the WBC title. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV. All one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.